For the first time in 11 years, interest rates have gone up. Cost of living's already soaring, so how will this affect household budgets? Tonight, we're taking a sobering look at the impact of the rate rise along with housing affordability and wages.
It's gone up, Chris. It's gone up. The interest rate has gone up.
The board decided to increase the cash rate target by 25 basis points.
A tiny change, but one with huge consequences.
We all knew that interest rates couldn't stay at this current level forever.
Interest rates last went up 11 years ago, at a time when Queensland flooded, Christchurch shook, and Kate and Will wed.
For richer, for poorer.
Many home buyers are going to be in for a bit of a shock.
In 2022, it's something more than 1 million Australian homeowners have never experienced.
Not since we've owned a house.
And I suppose we'll just have to tighten our belts in other areas.
A political punch in the guts, not to mention a real blow to Aussies battling the rising cost of living.
How do you live
Just
when
your lifestyle.
90% of your income is going to a mortgage? It's crazy.
If you are in financial stress, in financial difficulty, don't just ignore it. Don't just put your head in the sand.
This is what it all means for someone with the average Australian mortgage of $500,000. Today's 0.25% rise will add $65 per month to your repayments, and that's just the start of the bad news. If rates rise by a total of 2%, that's an extra $557 every month. But the worst case forecast is 3%. Suddenly, the average monthly repayments have risen by more than $800 a month.
More than 1.5 million households from those borrowing at the moment are now in mortgage stress, and that's an all-time record.
Fuelled by FOMO, the fear of missing out, which spread like an epidemic during 2020 and 2021.
That's 10% higher than it was before COVID hit. So
Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics has crunched the numbers. He says mortgage stress is already a huge problem in the outer suburbs of our two biggest cities. In Sydney's southwest, in suburbs like Campbelltown, Oran Park and Minto, 76% of households are already under mortgage stress. Further south, in Camden Park, Menangle and Goulburn, they suffer a 71% stress rate. And in around Cabramatta, Chipping Norton and Liverpool, the rate sits at just above 70%. In Melbourne, the most mortgage-stressed patch is the outer southeast, around Berwick, Beaconsfield and Pakenham, where it peaks at 72%. And after today, there'll be more looking for a get-out-of-jail-free card.
another 100 to 150,000 households will probably get sucked into being in mortgage stress.
In Oran Park, Matthew and Lisa are alert, not alarmed.
People thought we were crazy for what we paid here, and now people are paying 3 times as much.
They locked in a 5-year fixed rate, which is just about to come to an end, so they know the clock is ticking.
It's either we've really got to negotiate with the banks or look elsewhere, but I definitely wouldn't leave it variable now.
Their biggest concern, how much rates go up over time.
If it goes up 5%, that's a whole different ballgame.
See the house? You like the house? I like it. Yeah.
Gary and his family have just bought their dream home in Oran Park.
You want to jump in the pool? It took 20 years to get here, and yeah, it's rewarding.
The father of 2 says he's allowed financial wiggle room for what's to come.
They're saying there's going to be 4 interest rate increases in the next, or before the end of the year. So that's something I've factored in, and it could be more.
And he's also well aware the dream home is smack bang in the mortgage stress belt of Australia, where forced sales could see property values plummet.
This is long term for me, whether it goes up or down, it doesn't really matter. I feel for the other people that are in a different position.
Alice Stoltz from Domain says the pain could be very real. Her advice, be prepared.
Only you know how much risk you can take on.
In Ipswich, west of Brisbane, Jay and Holly bought their first home last June. So far, it's been saving them money.
We were paying $450 a week in rent, and our repayments for this are about $310 a week.
Right now, they're relieved they played it safe and didn't borrow more to live closer to work.
I think if we'd bought something for what we'd originally planned on, interest rates going up would have been a big concern for us, definitely.
But like many young families, the future is full of questions. This time next year, their cheap fixed interest rate ends, and they know they face a hike.
They did talk to us a little bit at the bank when we applied for the loan that they usually try and factor in about a 3% increase.
So is now the time to fix your rate?
We know that rates will most likely rise again and again in the months ahead, so it's worth speaking to a lender or a bank around your situation and really pushing them on what is the best deal for you.
As they say, all good things come to an end. And as Australia's total household debt climbs, the stakes have never been higher.
Start making plans now. So really prioritise your spending.
A lot of our wealth is tied up in the equity of this house, and if that goes down, that's a big hit. Yeah, a lot of the young guys at work panicking because it might not be decades until they can afford a house.
Or is the great Aussie dream of owning slipping away for the next generation?
But what happens to those who are already struggling to make ends meet? These Australians are desperate for an income rise that at least matches inflation.
Horrifying.
Fearful.
Distressing.
Tough.
Petrol, groceries, schooling, clothing, housing, bills, everything is becoming more expensive, but full-time and casual wages aren't moving. Tonight, 4 average Aussies struggling on pensions and wages with an hourly rate that's not keeping pace with inflation.
$22.45 an hour.
$37.54.
$36.
$9.47. There's no beef or lamb in my fridge.
Bronwyn says her quality of life is going backwards.
To subsist on what I get is a physical impossibility.
The former school teacher never thought retirement would be like this.
I never dine out. I don't have coffee out. Wouldn't contemplate having a holiday.
As an aged pensioner, Bronwyn gets a modest rise each year, but it's nowhere near the current 5.1% inflation rate.
Have I been out of the house this week? No. When was the last time I went out of the house? Probably a week ago.
So I've been in the retail industry for 11 years now, and I've been on the same wage for the last 10 years.
Young mum Casey works full-time in a department store on just over $22 an hour.
I tell you what, they don't make it easy at all. It's very hard, especially when you have 2 little ones at home, and the price of everything has gone skyrocketed.
She used to be able to cope until penalty rates in the retail sector were slashed, but cuts never came to the cost of living.
It's very hard, very hard. Rent for me is more than half my wage at the moment, and our rent did go up too last year with everything else that went up.
Casey, can you afford any luxuries like going out to dinner?
That'd be nice. That'd be nice. I can't tell you when the last time I went out to dinner was.
You've been told from day one at school, you know, study hard, do your work, go to uni, get a good job and get a good pay, and it is a reasonable pay. But when the price of living keeps going up and it doesn't adjust, it just doesn't keep up.
Nick is a nurse trying to live the Australian dream of family and home ownership, but
it's distressing. You never know what's going to come up.
The father of 2 young ones is living from pay packet to pay packet. Last week, he got excited when his partner said there were nappies on sale at a supermarket they don't normally use.
And there's some cheaper ones at another supermarket. Do you mind going and getting them? I said, no, no problem. We'll save $9, yeah.
The week before was tough. Mum had to pay his rego.
Late 30s now and having to ask your parents for money to help pay for your car so you can get to work to live is very difficult. It's disheartening.
Enough is enough! Say something now!
He and other nurses are now demanding a pay rise exactly the same as inflation, and today's interest rate rise has just reinforced that.
We'd have to look at more things that we can cut out and change what we eat buy less quality ingredients. Don't replace clothes by cheaper things.
This was all I had at the end of the week, $50.
After paying the monthly mortgage on her modest home, that's all Donna survives on.
I don't go on holidays, I don't do anything big.
The office worker is struggling to make ends meet. The basics of life are fast becoming a luxury.
Fresh food's gone up 30%. So, trying to live a healthy life, not so much.
Donna works in crisis accommodation. The irony is she may soon be there herself, fearing she may lose her home. For now, she works as a volunteer at a community pantry and is able to get a few free meals there each week. But today's rate rise has her worried.
I'm nervous and I am battening down the hatches.
Just 4 groups of Aussies struggling on wages that aren't keeping pace with prices. And there are so many more.
I shouldn't be here with a young family and a partner who's also university educated and be looking at how to save $9 on nappies.
It's not fair that we are expected to live on the smell of an oily rag for the next, 65, for the next 20 or 30 years. That's not fair at all.
There's been no good news for those Australians in the past couple of weeks, has there?